My debut for England, and my boot sponsor, Adidas at the time, had sent me the boots you have to wear. And then I got a call from David Moyes to say, congratulations, don't bring them boots back because they were red. Like, I'm sure that will be the decision behind Kevin De Bruyne. If he decides to leave, it'll be like, well, who's the most capable team of winning the Champions League whilst Man City are not in there? Yaya played well, we won. There was nothing else was going to happen. Like, if he was man of the match, we won the game. And that's what special players do. Growing up with other managers always say, you can't turn it on and off like a light. You can. If you're that good, you can turn it on and off. This is what I'm saying, man. Stan, like, and I won't expose him, but like, he forgets. He was at Villa when my brother was at Villa. My brother was an apprentice, so I know ridiculous stories about him.
What, like what?
Nah, I won't.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to yet again another episode of the Beautiful Game podcast. As ever, I'm your host, Budge, joined by my faithful two co-conspirators, Dot and Dej. Boys, how are we doing?
I'm very well, Budge. How are you, bro?
Yeah, man, not too bad. Keeping busy as ever. Honestly, now the weeks are just flying by, man.
Literally.
So I've lost track of the day, how long we've been on this lockdown for. It's just all one big blur at the moment, man. How about you, Dej? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. As you can see, we've got a penchant for top centre-back talent on this podcast, you know. We've had Rio Ferdinand, we've had Ledley King, Sylvain Distin, and obviously, Budge, I know you want to do the intro as well.
Of course, 100%. We're a bit like Thanos with the, we're, you know, from the Avengers, you know. We're collecting
centre-back unions.
Centre-back unions, like... But of course, as you alluded to, Dej, we've got a very, very special guest who's joining us at the moment. This gentleman had a career which spanned almost 2 decades at the top level, with over 500 caps combined for Wolves, for Everton, West Brom, Aston Villa and Man City, where of course he won 2 league titles and an FA Cup. And I'm sure we can all remember. I don't think we can ever forget
Aguero.
Okay, I mean, in terms of a Premier League finish, I don't think we're ever going to see a better final day than that. And of course, we're gonna talk about that in a little while. Of course, he's also been capped 26 times by England. He's a fashion icon, as you can see him like sporting the hat there, and also
that's the quarantine head. That's the quarantine head.
Yeah, come on, man. You gotta hide that hair.
I know you mans would have had hats on if this was going like a video link as well.
So yeah, of course, you know, we're going to chat a bit about, you know, fashion in the course of the interview too, and of course, he's a fan of flashy cars. Matte grey ones, to be precise. Wink, wink. You know, we're going to get things cracking. We're going to get things started. Without further ado, we welcome Joleon Lescott to the platform.
Welcome, Joleon.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking time out. Just to kick things off, I know Budge spoke about the Aguero moment, but we're going to hold that for now. Obviously, you've been a professional footballer previously for a very long time. You had, you know, a very illustrious career, but you've got a new role at Manchester City, and we're going to go into that. But what I want to ask you is, obviously, you worked with David Moyes, you worked with Remy Gard, Tim Sherwood, Roberto Mancini, and so many other managers. But since you've joined, you know, Man City as someone behind the scenes, has your view of the game changed because you've worked with Chixi Berestein, Seriano, Pep Guardiola, one of his right-hand men, Rodolfo Borrell? So do you view football differently now that you've worked with these kind of people?
Not necessarily, no. I tend to think I had a decent IQ of football, and my kind of take on it is still similar to what it was when I played. Obviously, it's broadened due to the names that you've just mentioned. But I was lucky enough to work with Glenn Huddle at such an early age at Wolves, and I've said it every time someone asks me, he was the best manager I worked under. He helped me understand the game in the purest and simplest format. He said something, and I don't know if it was me or everyone. I just understood it. I just was able to kind of say, yeah, that makes sense. And I know before you explain why you want us to do that or me to do that, I know that's the best thing to do, kind of thing. So I've been lucky enough to work with some top managers, and obviously at the moment with Pep and stuff like that. I would enjoy to pick his brains, but he's got so much on. I wouldn't even entertain that conversation.
Yeah, so you know the nuts and bolts of your role. What does it include? So on a day-to-day, what does your job, description specify?
Mainly, I work with players that it's mainly position specific, so defenders. But there are a couple of players that play in attacking roles that I have good relationships with. So that's the reason for me to work with them. But mainly, I work with defenders and help them understand the games and the choices they make in the games. Because again, if they've come through our academy, the way they've played and been educated on football is not real life. It's not for every team, as you can imagine. City's academy and the top academies in the country and in the world, it's not the way that it's played in the other leagues and other teams. So they have to kind of be aware to that, and they all learn so fast, and that's the key thing, is not to go there and show what you've learned at Man City. It's to go there and see what you can learn, what you've learned from their coaches and their managers, and say, well, how fast can you take instructions and then implement them into your game? Because if you go there with the mindset of, well, I do this at City, we taught this at City, and say, for instance, that's say a Pep philosophy. If Pep was to leave when you get into the first team, what are you going to say to the new manager? Well, Pep told me this, so I'm not going to do that. No, you have to be able to adapt and learn different ways and different styles of play.
Fair play. And Joleon, I wanted to ask, since you've hung up the boots, the tables have turned a little bit, and now you're turning tables. See what I did there?
Yeah.
So as an aspiring DJ, so how did that come about? Has it always been something that has been an interest of yours, and how do you balance that with the work that you're doing with City at the moment as well?
Yeah, that's always been an interest. My dad is a DJ, so growing up, I've been there and carried the crates of records when it used to be vinyls and stuff. So I've done that. But then
cool.
I was probably 16 to 18 when I was couple of years at my mum's. I had decks in my room, again, turntables, vinyls, and just learned there with some friends. We had a little group called the Trio. The little chocolate bar, the Trio. That was our last thing. So we had that, and then obviously, so I just learned how to DJ then. They were MCs. I wasn't confident enough to get on the mic, so that wasn't happening. And then, so obviously then left, and obviously then started playing first team football. So kind of just went on the back burner. Didn't take it as serious as I should have. As I said, I wasn't trying to play it in the clubs and nothing like that. I just enjoyed to do it, still do. And then the last few years of my career, I realised that nothing's going to replace playing. Nothing. Whatever I do now in life I won't enjoy as much as playing the game. So I just wanted something that I can enjoy and really want to get into. And again, when the last couple of years of my career, when the opportunities were coming, obviously I had a bigger profile to kind of go out and play in clubs and bars. It was good. And then I realised, well, I can't really be out every week. I've got a family, got kids and that. So I need to be up Sunday mornings for the kids' football. But also if I'm saying to the wife, I'm going out every week to DJ, that's not happening. So I do it regularly enough for it still to enjoy it, but it's never going to be like my only career path.
It's been made public knowledge that Pep Guardiola won't stay at Man City forever. We know, there's been a big push to, build the academy and pump a lot of money into the football club. So what are the club doing behind the scenes to prepare for Pep Guardiola's departure?
Oof, that's a big question. I'm not sure. I can only speak on what they were doing to prepare for when he arrived, and I was there, and we kind of was always aware of that. Not even it was probably public knowledge, but there was things put in place before he arrived. So I'm assuming they're having the same methodology now. They're putting things in place for the person they view to come in and kind of take over the mantle. It's not going to be easy when that happens for anyone. I think it's going to have a similar effect of, not in terms of the lack of trophies in the greatest respect that Sir Alex did to Man United. I think if you're a City fan now, obviously they've gone through a period where it was Mancini and Pellegrini and they were winning trophies. Then Pep comes in, continues to win, but wins in this ridiculous style of play. So the next manager coming is going to have to bring something totally. Winning's not going to be enough, and even winning in style might not be enough. So it's going to be difficult for the person to take over. But I'm sure they've got someone in mind with a view to kind of that would be ready to take that role.
Yeah, so obviously City have been hit with this ban in Europe, and we've seen the fallout. We've seen, it turned very ugly at times. Kevin De Bruyne has recently come out and said, if this ban is to be upheld, he's not looking to stay around and basically waste his prime years. Do you understand that? And do you think Kevin De Bruyne will stay if the ban still gets upheld?
It's hard to say if he'll stay. Only he knows. But I totally understand what he's saying, because that was kind of my thought process when I was at Everton. Everton was good to me. I enjoyed it there. But then I thought, in my prime years, optimal years of playing, how realistic is it for Everton to challenge for the title? It is for Man City to challenge for the title. And that was the decision made in the thought process behind me leaving and joining, obviously, Man City to kind of challenge for them titles. So I'm sure that will be the decision behind Kevin De Bruyne. If he decides to leave, it'll be like, well, who's the most capable team of winning the Champions League whilst Man City are not in there? Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully neither of them things happen. Obviously they're going to try and fight the corner. They believe they were right in what they were doing. So hopefully there's some common ground and they can reach an agreement.
Feeling within the Man City camp, are you happy for Project Restart?
Again, I haven't spoke to the players. I wouldn't know. But I totally understand why there would be concerns. And as players, you're able to get on with things. But when it involves family, that's when you kind of be like, nah, there's a line drawn there. And I think it's ridiculous how, Matt Hancock can call out Premier League players to say they need to take a pay cut, and then a few weeks later, someone else is asking them to kickstart or restart football for the morale of the nation. I'm like,
it's embarrassing.
What? So you want them to do that for the nation, and then also do that for the nation, but no one's saying to them like kind of anything else. It's ridiculous how that can even be a thing. But yeah, I understand all the concerns, and it will continue, as obviously if it's only going to take one player to get infected, and then it's going to be kind of disastrous, isn't it?
Absolutely. Joleon, I had a bit of I guess it's almost like a 3-part question, but I'll try and summarize as quickly as I can. So the first question I want to ask is about a certain Jadon Sancho. So obviously you were at the club when he was coming through the youth ranks, and the first part of the question was, did you see early on that he had the ingredients to be a top player and reach the heights that he has already reached and can reach it in future? The second part of that question is, what have the club done since his departure in terms of making sure that a similar situation doesn't happen in future, whereby top talent coming through the academy goes off elsewhere before getting a chance in the first team? And is there a worry and a concern around Phil Foden and his future at the club if he's not getting regular first team
Okay.
time?
So we'll go back. So the first part, yeah, you could see. I think you could see Jadon's talent at like 12, 13 before his arrival. I think everybody knew he had the ability. But then obviously I was there. I think he was 15, and this is when I realised how good he could be or was at the time. He wasn't even training with the 23s because he was still in school. So he only could train the day before a game for the 20, and then he would play in the games and obviously be one of the best players at 15. I'm like, well, if you're able to do that at 15, when you're training every day and then your body obviously fills out and you understand a bit more kind of what you can and can't do as you just get experience, it's going to be someone to stop you. But then he had the kind of understanding and the know-how to kind of say, I need more. And I've spoke to people that are in the academy, and I think that was the regret, is that they didn't probably push him hard enough. He was probably ready to go on loan at 15, but to do that, then that would look like, if you're shaking your head now about that, kind of thing, you know what I mean? It just sounds strange, doesn't it? But I think if you push him that fast, that far, that early, but it wouldn't have been early for him. He would have been able to cope with that demand because he was that good. But you just kind of need to understand what that looks like. Are the decisions he makes, are the bad decision he makes because he's frustrated that he's not challenged enough, or are they bad decisions? But for him, he was at a level where, I can kick on, and he believed that, and he proved that. Obviously, within 12 months later, going to Dortmund. In terms of the academy doing that, or preventing that from happening again, I very much doubt in the next so many years there'll be a player of that level. In the greatest respect to all the players coming through of that level, to be valued at 100 million by the time he's 19. That's a big ask. It's a big ask for any individual. And in order to do that, you're going to have to play. And what I would then say to people, even to answer the Phil Foden issue, at this moment in time, Man City sign the top 3 to 5 best players in the world at their position. So now we're asking our academy players to come out of the academy having never played to be in the top 5 best in the world in their position. Like, how unrealistic is that to ask? And again, obviously it's easy now because Jadon's played first team minutes and you're able to say, he's probably that. But at the time, we had Raheem Sterling and Leroy Sané. Like, they wasn't underperforming. They were still doing their thing. So it's going to be difficult. You know what I mean? So the Phil Foden one, it's different to Jadon because Jadon wanted to play. I'm getting the impression he wanted to play first team and football. But Phil wants to do that, but he wants to do that for Man City. Like, he's a Man City fan. So it means different for him. I think if that's Jadon at his club that he grew up loving and stuff like that, then the decision to leave probably wouldn't have been so easy for him. You know what I mean? So the Phil Foden one, I don't think he's in a rush to leave. I don't think they'll miss out on an opportunity for him. And like I said, should Phil Foden now, and your reaction will tell me the answer, should Phil Foden play ahead of David Silva?
At this point in time, it's a difficult one. I think David Silva's minutes are being managed now. Obviously, he's in the swan song of his career. I believe Phil Foden deserves much more opportunities than he's been given. Pep's come out to the press and said, he should be valued at 500 million. So why isn't he playing then?
Man City are not paying for anything this season as well. It's done.
And it's hard. Who's to say that wouldn't have happened in the league now? You know what I mean? Like, Champions League, obviously a little bit different, a little bit more pressure, but arguably the biggest game of last season, the Spurs home game, league, he played. You know what I mean? So it obviously does kind of, he can rely on him, he does trust him. In terms of more minutes, I honestly believe if it was a year earlier, they may not have bought Bernardo Silva. Because I just think the timing of it, and I think anyone you get on will tell you, timing is so huge. Phil Foden was still 16, 17 in the under 23s, under 18s. And then you go and buy Bernardo Silva. He's an unbelievable player. And now Phil Foden could miss an opportunity because the timing, just for the timing, not through anything ability or anything like that.
Manchester City's performance in the league, it's almost been, to their usual standards, cataclysmic. I mean, 25 points behind the runaway leaders and the champions-elect Liverpool. How painful has it been for Manchester City?
Yeah, it's been painful. I'm not gonna lie. I can't even talk with enthusiasm. Obviously playing for Everton, and then there's not even, I don't even know if it's a rivalry. It's like a hatred kind of thing there, obviously, and then going to City and them being the rivals in terms of the title challenge. Yeah, it's difficult to watch, but you got to give them credit. You've got to give them credit. They've performed unbelievably consistent. So that's kind of the new standard. The new standard isn't doing anything extraordinary in terms of performances. It's just doing it every week. It's just no blips. And that's the kind of level that Man City and Liverpool have set. I do think, obviously, injuries have played a massive, massive part. I think Laporte's impact, especially this season with no Vinny, was going to be huge. And it has been huge since he's arrived. His impact, I'm not comparing the players, but his impact to Man City has been similar, in my opinion, to Van Dijk of Liverpool. And I think if you, for instance, now take Van Dijk out of that team and put Fabinho at the back for Liverpool, it's a different team.
Yeah,
we can all say that.
Joleon, but it's easy to say that. But you've got John Stones, that was dubbed to be the biggest English centre-back talent since Rio Ferdinand, and he's on the bench. He's not playing games.
Yeah, as I said, but there has been some injury issues, and obviously John will be the first to admit there has been some performance blips. But I'm just saying, if your best centre-half is missing, and then my opinion, your best holding midfielder is not in his position and has to compensate that, like, it's going to make a difference. I'm not saying City are going to be top, you know what I mean? But the difference wouldn't be as dramatic as if them players were fit, and then vice versa for Liverpool.
Yeah, so Joleon, when we look at the two teams, there's been a drastic fall off for Manchester City. If we were to set an action plan of how Manchester City can close the gap on Liverpool, what things do you think need to be improved on?
Again, obviously, the easy ones would be to get someone in terms of replacement, if that happens again. So if your injuries hit you again, you've got your best players playing in their best positions. But in terms of the gap, I just think it's a new level of consistency. I don't think there's one thing that's gonna say, yeah, do that and then you'll be okay. Like, if you look at this season, the start of this season, I honestly believe if you would have asked both of them, clubs, managers, players, which one do you want to win? Do you want to win the league or the Champions League? Both of them would have took the ones they won, opposite ones they won the year before. And that looks like that's going to be the case. Hopefully, City get through and the Champions League is still allowed to be played and they win that. And is that a bad season? Is winning the Champions League for the first time in your history and finishing 25 points second, is that a bad season?
Of course not.
I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Joleon, I've got a quick follow-up question to that as well. From the outside looking in, a lot of people have said domestically, Manchester City are full up. There's no appetite to go out on the pitch and, put on performances. And that's been a major part of why Liverpool have actually gone on to, take an unassailable league in this title campaign. From speaking to the lads and being in and around, the Etihad campus, do you think it's true?
Nah, I think that's just a throwaway comment. People say that are not involved in football. Like, they always know to repeat the domestic form in any league. What was it before? Like, City's title double. Was it Man United? 6-7 years ago, kind of thing. So everybody knows to retain the title is the hardest thing. So actually, kind of do it 3 times. Yeah, that's going to be difficult. And obviously, Liverpool have got that kind of being so close over the last couple of years. They're nearly there, where that's the kind of mindset that Man City potentially have in the Champions League. I don't think it's a case of we don't care about the league. We feel it's too easy for us. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think any player will ever tell you they go out there intentionally not to perform. just sometimes doesn't happen. And obviously, you've got to think that you got to respect the teams in the league. Like, they're working Man City out now. If you are the same team, coach, players go into the Etihad trying to play the same way as you did the last 2 years, when you got your face boss and you just come in with the same game plan. Come on, you know what I mean? You've got to do something different. So that's what I'm saying. Teams are doing now, and as I said, now it's for Pep and the team to kind of figure out that part of it as well.
Oh, definitely.
Do you know what, Joleon? Going back to a question that Dej asked just then about a plan of action to sort of narrow that gap and whatnot. And going back to the point that we were raising about John Stones, what is the best approach? Is it City going out and buying another central defender, or is it getting in a new or different defending coach to work with John Stones and the other centre backs coming through? And the reason I ask is because when we spoke to Sylvain Distin recently, he was very much of the opinion that John Stones hasn't been coached correctly in his development so far, in the sense that perhaps there should have been more of a focus on actually defending rather than him being comfortable on the ball and distribution and his touch and that kind of thing. So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I understand where, and I've seen them comments from Sylvain, and I agree with them to a certain extent, because the era that we're from, you were taught how to defend and then, be able to do this with the ball, where I think it's the opposite now. And I think that's why Van Dijk stands out, because he doesn't give the ball away, but no one says he's unbelievable on the ball, but he never gives it away. But he's the best defender. And I think when you are the best defender, if you are the best defender nowadays, you'd stand out more, because more defenders can play and distribute it well rather than defend. And yeah, I just think that's the modern game. Is it John Stones' fault? No. Would he benefit from some defensive mindset coaching? Of course. I think every defender benefits from that. Like Vinny still does that kind of. I'm still in contact with him. I know how he approaches the game. So it wouldn't hinder his development having a different approach to his style of play. But then it's also got to fit into Man City style of play. And that's the biggest thing. If Pep is happy with the way it's gone, who am I to say? John Stones needs to work on anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so Joleon, we want to move it backwards to your Wolves career, breaking through under Colin Lee. You spent 6 years at the club. You know, I see you smiling because obviously you've got a lot of rich memories, breaking into the team, promotion pushes, relegation. Like, how was your time at Wolves? Because from the outside looking in, I know you won a lot of awards there, Players of the Season, Young Player of the Season. But I want to dial into around the period where, getting promoted to the Premier League, then you had to miss, the following season through an injury. You and Matt Murray, the two linchpins of the side, then having to watch the team from the sidelines get relegated. How was that?
At the time, it was fine, because I'd never played in the Prem. The Prem was obviously the pinnacle of English football, but it wasn't like it is now. Like, you see Match of the Day once a week, and that was it. You know what I mean? So I didn't kind of understand what I was missing out on at that time. It wasn't until I kind of got back fit, and then I realised how big of a season that was to miss. But yeah, going back to the promotion, like I got injured the penultimate game of the season. I injured myself in training, and I was told just to rest the last game of the season. And then obviously I wasn't told how serious my injury was. Played in the playoff games. We got promoted. Matt Murray made the match in the final. Yeah. And then I went for an operation. And then when I woke up, I was told, that injury was quite serious. You're going to be out for 6-7 months. I was like, what? That's new to me. I thought I was going to be training pre-season kind of thing. And again, medicine wasn't what it was now. You know what I mean? So I was told then I was going to be, I think it was the start of December. You'll be fit by the start of December. And that was it. there wasn't a plan for me to have in place to, like a structure of a rehab sequence. It was, by the time that happens, you'll be. Hello.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd got injured, and then I was told I was going to be fit in the December. So again, no plan in place, no rehab. Literally, would just go to the gym, do generic stuff. Wasn't even like knee specific stuff. And then 2 weeks before I was due to start training again, I was advised to start running on a treadmill. Obviously hadn't done enough strength work, so did that. Was a bit sore. Literally first day back in training, did the same thing over again. Wow. So then I had to miss the remaining of the season, and that's when it was explained to me that this is really serious. And the second time, I did a bit more research before I had the operation. I don't know if you remember Adi Akinbaye.
Yeah, the striker. Yeah, so Leicester as well.
Yeah. So obviously he was at Wolves, and he was at Palace at the time, and he advised me to go and see Richard Stedman, who's based in America. He was the kind of Van Nistelrooy and R9 there surgery, but not just the surgery. He gives you a plan of what it looks like to come back from the injury. So I took some time to see him, meet him, and then went and had the operation out there. And there was a strict procedure to kind of get back to fitness. And my naive thought process then was, if I do what I'm told, I'll get back. And if there's no pain, there's no reason why I can't perform the way I was performing before. And that was just a simple mindset I had. And luckily for me, that kind of panned out. And then later on in my career, I realized that you're going to have to continue this. This is not just to get back fit, it's to stay fit, and then to obviously to progress.
Last one on Wolves before we move on. So what advice would you give to young players that, are curtailed by nasty injuries? Because recently we spoke to a player in the Championship. I'm not going to mention the name to break confidence, but they were injured for the whole season when they got promoted to the Premier League. And he said mentally he was in the dumps, he was in the doldrums, he was in depression. So what advice would you give to young professionals? Because I'm sure a lot of them see you as a mentor.
Yeah, it's difficult, and it's not easy, but it won't determine how far you go in your career if you don't let it. Like with all the medicine now and the stuff you can do, like I was back then, there wasn't even like internet on your phone. So I had to like literally go on YouTube on my computer at home, write down what they were doing, the best programs, and then try and implement them at training before the lads used to come in. So, but now you just look at your phone and everyone's kind of doing the thing. So in terms of what you need to do, it's easier access. You just have to have the mindset to do it. And if it's hard, then then you probably won't reach your potential. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't do the work, and I would say if you get to a point of where it's sore or you're still finding it, then it's too late. You need to, like, you're going to have days where you feel, I'm back and I'm good as ever. Do it them days. Don't wait for it to be sore to do it. Like, continue the work when you feel good, and then you stay on top of it. So yeah, but it is hard, as I said. And the depression side of it, I only realized that side of the game, how significant that is when I retired. I retired a year early. I had a plan to do one more season, and that wasn't to be. And then when I realized I was going to retire, there was a 3-month period. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I understood how people get depressed. I honestly knew this is real.
Wow.
Yeah. Not that I was depressed. I'm not going to say I was depressed at that level, but I honestly knew how, you know what I mean, how people get to that level.
Yeah.
So, Joleon, you were mentioning Glenn Hoddle in passing earlier on about being, it was a joy to play under him. When you see him commentate and speak about the game, it's on another level. So hearing that day in, day out on the training ground, what was it about him that made him so special and unique to you?
Yeah, as I said, like when I hear him now, if when he explains stuff in his commentary, you can see, like, if he was commentating on the radio and you hadn't watched the game, you would see the picture, and it wouldn't be a 10-minute answer. It would be like this. There you go. You'd be like, yeah, I can see that. I can understand why he made that decision. And that's exactly how I got him when we worked together. And he used to say things and then try and go and did. I would say, yeah, I've got it. And as I said, it wasn't because I'm the know-it-all or the prophet or whatever. It was just, I was just on the same understanding as him. And he was the only manager to have me doing finishing sessions. And I'm like, why has he got me doing finishing? I'm a defender. And he used to say to me, you get into so many good positions in set pieces, but you don't score enough. So he used to have me doing finishing, seriously, like every other week or whatever, just me, him, and one of the coaches. And then I go to Everton and I scored 10 goals in one season. And I'm like, surely that must be the same things. He must have seen it, and then all of a sudden it's a mad coincidence.
No, 100%, and it's great that you sort of segued into Everton, because your final season at Wolves, you were in the Championship PFA Team of the Year, right? And so that's great. You've bounced back from that injury, and you've come back strong, and that obviously then meant that you started courting interest from other clubs. And I guess I wanted to ask you a bit about that period of the transfer from Wolves to Everton, because correct me if I'm wrong, the move was slightly delayed because Everton wanted to have some extra medical checks done because of obviously the issues that you had with your knee earlier on. And we've seen so many cases and incidents of transfers falling through because of a player failing a medical and whatnot. So was that playing on your mind in that period of time as well? Like, this could potentially not happen because of this?
Yeah, well, I got the call to go up there to do the medical, and I'd never done a medical before. And my agent just said to me, well, we're going to go there, do this, do that, take a few days. And I was due to go on holiday. So I'd already booked my holiday with my friends. So we get it in before, then I would hopefully sign and then go on holiday. So we get up there, and it's been 4 days. Shouldn't take that long to do that. And then there was, obviously, it was the first time they're seeing my medical history, and I know what my knee looks like, and my knee shouldn't pass a medical. But the previous 2 seasons, like you said, I'd played my first season back from injury. I played 50, I think it was 40 something games, 49, maybe 50 games. And the second season I played 54 games. So I'd played more in them 2 seasons than anyone had done for Everton in them 2 seasons.
Wow.
So that was kind of my medical, and that was always the case throughout my career. If you graded me on my scans, I would never pass a medical. But in terms of my game time and my availability, I was up there with anyone in the squad that I was going to. Like, so I played them 2 seasons, went to Everton, and played in every game for 3 seasons. So that was 5 years. I played in every game. So you couldn't then argue that my knee was going to be a hindrance. I'm not saying I played well in all them games, but I was available, and that was the thing. So I understood why Everton had reserved at the start, but then when I kind of explained that, and my agent was explaining that, are you signing me due to that, or are you signing me because I can perform at that level consistently? Then obviously the decision was made. But it was frustrating because I was there for 4 days, it never happened. And then my agent said, if it doesn't get done tomorrow, we'll just go. Because it wasn't like we were waiting on stuff. It just wasn't happening. I was like, yeah, getting frustrated. So I'd planned to go back down. And then now my holiday, I'm 3 days into my holiday. So it's been like 8-9 days now since I initially went up there. I'd stayed in a hotel and just waiting around, hopefully to get it done. And the agent said, you know what? I don't know if this is going to happen. Just go on holiday. So I'd missed like 3 days. I'd done the medical, I went back and they said, yeah, okay. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Literally got off the plane. And I had a text from my agent, it's done. And kind of, that night on holiday was there.
Yeah, so Joleon, when you look at your career, it's been step-on-step progression and making moves at the right time. When you reflect on your time at Everton, working under David Moyes, finishing 5th and 6th, what sort of memories do you hold about that period of time?
Yeah, fun memories. As I said, it was hard at first. I went there hoping to play, and initially I wasn't in the team, and that was a frustrating thing. But again, luckily for me, someone got injured, and I kind of never came out the team. But in terms of the playing time and the progression, I wanted to improve all the time. So I would just ask questions, applied myself in training, and there was a period where me and David Moyes didn't get on. I didn't want to play left back. I hadn't played left back before. I'd never been coached there, and for me, top 3 left backs of all time, and definitely the best in England, was Ashley Cole. So I was never gonna play for England as a left back because we had Ashley Cole. So I was thinking, if I'm best at centre half, not that I'm better than what we had, and I'll go into that as well. But there was more opportunity for me to play for England centre half. So that's kind of where me and David Moyes had disagreements over that. But again, he knew I would give 100% if selected in any position.
We all know that, David Moyes done a terrific job at Everton, and since his departure, the club's pretty much never been the same. But obviously he moved on to Manchester United, and I think since then, to be quite frank, he's probably had a fall from grace. What has actually happened to David Moyes? Because before, he was a very, very good manager.
I still think he's a good manager, but I just think there's different things you need to be good at when you go to other levels. Like obviously Everton, like I was told, my first season at Everton was the first year David Moyes didn't take the warm-ups for the games. Imagine seeing coaches now warming up players for games. Like you just wouldn't see that. And I think that was the situation at Everton where he was used to doing everything. And then when you go to a place like Man United, you can't do everything. That is impossible for you to do that everything. But also knowing David Moyes, and it wasn't a problem for me. Some players it can be. He didn't, and he admitted this. He wasn't comfortable giving praise. Like if you did something exceptional, it was hard for him to say that was brilliant. You know what I mean? You get a well done, and that was enough. Because you knew kind of what he meant by that. But some people are just uncomfortable giving people praise. But when you go to the level that Man United were at, and you've got them players that are used to kind of hearing the negative, but then when we do something exceptional, saying, yeah, that's outrageous, that's unbelievable, and you don't say that, that's where the conflict may come.
So, Joleon, are you saying that basically his methods are pretty much out of date because the 1990s generation, they want to be cajoled. They want to be praised by their manager. They want their manager to be their best friend.
I wouldn't say out of date because, as I said, that's a personal trait. And I think if you look at Jose Mourinho, like I think he doesn't have that trait of to glowingly praise people openly. He has it in him to criticize them. And as an individual, not in football, if someone's openly criticizing me but won't openly praise me, it's hard for me to take that criticism. Like,
there needs to be a happy medium sort of thing.
I've got no problem with you criticizing me if you in the same platform you're praising me. No problem. I can take it all both ways. But don't say like in the dressing room, oh, that was rubbish, or this, that, and the other, and then or saying in the dressing room, not say that, and then in the press go and say them things. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. If we look at that trait, because the managing side of it for me comes down to that. It doesn't come down to what you know about football, because you all go on the same courses, you all spend enough time around the game to understand and see patterns. But if we're taught the same things on a course, this is my frustration with the coaching badges. If we're taught the same things on a course, but then how are we different managers? If we're taught the same thing, it's our traits, personal traits, implement them to allow us to do different things. And again, that is why possibly Klopp and Pep are so good now, because again, they've got the knowledge like everyone else, but their empathy trait is higher. So they're able to just say in the press, nah, that wasn't his fault. That was my fault. You know what I mean? About themselves, and take the responsibility which is what Jose had when he was at Chelsea the first time. You don't see him do that so much now. You know what I mean? And this generation of people, not footballers, these people is totally different to, say, that other generation.
Yeah, so before we move on, I just wanted to ask about the Merseyside derby. I asked Sylvan this question as well. From the outside looking in, it seems to be maybe some sort of inferiority complex coming from Everton towards Liverpool. It's as if Everton see Liverpool as a club that, oh, we want to be them. Look at them, big old Liverpool. We're going to give everything to get to that level. But when they play each other, Everton always falls short. So was there a mentality crisis going into those games and with the approach towards Liverpool?
Again, yeah, outside looking in, 100%. That is a massive game. I've not been on the Liverpool side to know how they treat it, but yeah, like you can't wear. I remember my debut for England, and my boot sponsor Adidas at the time had sent me the boots you have to wear, and then I got a call from David Moyes to say, "Congratulations, don't bring them boots back because they were red." Like, you know what I mean? That's how deep it goes. That's how deep the rivalry is. But in terms of like my derby experiences, like I played in one where we beat them in the FA Cup. I scored at Anfield, and then we beat them in the replay. And I took part in the 3-0 win at Goodison. So I've been lucky enough to play in some of the positive ones for Everton. Yeah, obviously overall Liverpool have dominated, but you can't forget. For me, they've had one of, if not the best players in the history of the Premier League, and that's Steven Gerrard. And what that means to him, that's got to mean the same to every Everton player. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but it means a lot to Steven Gerrard being a Liverpool captain, Liverpool lad. You know what I mean?
So what, from an Everton point of view, do you think they were missing those sort of homegrown players in the games?
Possibly, yeah. I think if you've got Wayne Rooney in his prime playing for Everton, them games are not going the way they've gone. You've got Steven Gerrard playing in his prime for Liverpool. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying with Wayne Rooney playing with other bunch of stars. I'm talking just put Wayne Rooney in any team in his prime, in any Everton team, then results are not the same.
And Joleon, we even saw it like for Everton when he went back there. 1-1. He scored the penalty, and you saw the passion and the heart.
That's what I'm saying. That's what that means to like players of that, like especially Liverpool, Everton. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, again, City United players, homegrown players will tell you the same, and any homegrown player will tell you the same. But for Gerrard and Rooney to play in that derby is huge, isn't it? So they wear their heart on their sleeve every game.
100%. Joleon, final question on Everton before we move it on. Whilst you were playing there, you were playing in the same team as a certain Mikel Arteta. And what I wanted to ask is, at that point, could you see that he had the ingredients to go on and potentially have a future career in management? Were there telltale signs even at that stage in his career?
No, I wouldn't have been able to guess he was going to be a manager. No, I knew he had the knowledge to be a manager because his football IQ was high. Like, I had a lot of respect for Mikel as a player when he played left wing and I was left back. But when he went to holding midfield, that's when I knew he had a different level of IQ and a different level, because he was able to prevent stuff. Like, Mikel was never going to go and smash someone, and he'd come from the wing where he was doing step overs and going past players, and then all of a sudden used to control the tempo of the game for us, but not tackling really. Not pulling out of tackles, but he wasn't known for doing that. You know what I mean? We had Lee Carsley in that position. That's what his job was, to break up play and kind of give it where Mikel was dictating play. So when I seen that transition for him, I knew he had a different IQ football-wise. But in terms of where he's gone and how quickly he's got there, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, I've seen that. I was able to see that.
Moving forward, obviously you made a big money move to Manchester City. And in 2011, 2012, Manchester City arrived as the noisy neighbours, winning their first Premier League trophy. And as we mentioned earlier, that Aguero moment. just talk to us, sum up that occasion.
The day.
Yeah.
Like that day. Okay, so obviously that was yesterday, the anniversary.
Yeah.
That was it's a madness. Like I don't remember I don't remember the build up in a week. I don't remember the training sessions, what it was like the day before. And that's kind of credit to everyone there because we didn't get carried away with it. I just remember thinking, if we win this game, we win the league. And then obviously the game happened, and then honestly, like it gives me goosebumps now talking about it and thinking about it. Like as you said at the start, for me that won't be beaten in terms of a Premier League finish. The fact that they made it so well known about us being the noisy neighbours and all that stuff. Obviously, the first time we're doing it, they are and still are obviously the most glorified Premier League team, and to be their arch rivals and you know what I mean, to be assembled and only be assembled for money. We was only joining Man City for money. That's what everyone made out it was for. But we obviously had a different motivation and different agenda, and that was to kind of be successful. So to be part of that was special. But that day itself, I just remember the celebrations after, and it was great because the club wasn't the size it is now, and we were told we had a celebration in the town hall, and everyone had to go, and you could bring everyone you wanted to bring, but every member of staff from every department was in there, and it just went off. It just went off.
Yeah, so Joleon, what I wanted to ask is, how is it like playing with David Silva and Yaya Toure? Because those two players have etched themselves into Premier League folklore. I mean, Yaya Toure at times, it was like men against boys. The finishes, the free kicks, he was doing what he wanted at times. So how is he as a man, and how is he like to work with?
Yaya is in a group is very quiet. You probably wouldn't notice him. Doesn't want that attention from the group. But once you get him in a smaller group, 1, 2, like it's so funny. Yeah, like great guy to be around. You know what I mean? Like he's playful. He can be silly, like silly. You know what I mean? So like he's just a down to earth guy, considering where he was coming from. And the stature he had, he didn't make he didn't make us feel like, oh, you're beneath me. You know what I mean? Yeah, he expected things off us in terms of on the field, but he didn't kind of carry this aura around of him saying, I'm better than you, lot. But in terms of, like you said, in terms of his play, the best player I've played with, because different to footballer though, and I'll explain. Different footballer and player are different.
Okay.
Because player for me, if Yaya played well, we won. There was nothing else was going to happen. Like if he was man of the match, we won the game, and that's what special players do. Like Gerrard has that ability. If he's man of the match, Liverpool. He only get man of the match, and Liverpool lost. Wayne Rooney has that ability. Yaya Toure has that ability. You know what I mean? So, where footballer now, David Silva. Oh my God.
Dynamo, magician, maestro.
Different guy. Different. Because then you got to remember, when he come, he was 4-4-2. We weren't playing no free in midfield. He was 4-4-2. He was a winger. So do everything else and then do what you do that no one else can do. You know what I mean? So, yeah, them two, they're ridiculous players.
What about Vincent Kompany? Because for me, he sort of sums up the Abu Dhabi tenure. He was bought in the first window along with Zabaleta, and he sort of, you know, he's been throughout the journey up until recently.
Was Vinny not there before?
Yeah, he was there
before. Before. I'm sure he was bought before them. In terms of what you're saying, Vinny, it's funny because how Vinny was at the end, Vinny was like that before the success. That's how he carried himself. That's how he spoke. That's how he looked and viewed things. But I'm not sure everyone was on the same page. Like whether that be players, us as players, the club. He had a vision of what he expected and what he wanted. And then everything else mirrored that. And then at the end, that's when you see, Vinny's that guy. You know what I mean? So in terms of how he approached everything. He was deadly serious. Like when we used to go to games, like lads would listen to music and stuff like that. Vinny was doing a master's degree. Like he would have his book out and his marker pen and highlighting. And we're like, Vinny, put it away, man. And he would say, like, I can't. This is how I concentrate. This is how he has to focus on anything. And like, we would all go away games and everyone would have the PlayStation or whatever. He would have his briefcase and we're like, Vinny, man, come on, give us a chance, bro. Give us a chance. As I said, he wasn't even the oldest in the team, but he was like he was, you know what I mean? He was like he was the oldest. Definitely, obviously highly intelligent, speaks multiple languages, some of them that you don't need as well. So, but yeah, a good friend.
Do you know what? So we've mentioned in passing there a few players, right? And I mean the team was star-studded, back to front. Honourable mentions for Mario Balotelli, Robinho, Elano, like all these players that were playing at the club. And I guess I wanted to ask Joleon, like, what was training like? You know, you got all these top players in the club. Was it highly competitive? Did it really just go off on a different level in terms of how much it challenged you as a player as well? What was that like?
Yeah, of course. When I first got there, it was Micah, Vinny, and Nigel. That I'd never seen players train like that. I'd never seen people train to that level every day and like it was a game. I'd seen people try hard and try their maximum, and I believed I did. But they would go in for tackle. Like I wouldn't tackle in training because I'm not trying to. They didn't care. Like, put your shin pads on. If you cared about that, then don't come out here, kind of thing. They had that mindset, and as you play, basically. Which again is great. I never had to that extent. Not that I was sliding in games anyway. I never really slide tackle, but in terms of that was like, oh, okay, this is deadly serious. These the guys train exactly how they play. But everyone kind of had that to their own style. They was just more noticeable because theirs was an aggressive style. Where if you talk about the level, there are probably two players that probably didn't train the way they played.
I think I can guess one.
Well, arguably probably the most effective as well.
Yeah.
Sergio Aguero and Carlos Tevez.
Yeah.
Carlos Tevez was just like, in terms of technical ability, did his thing, and he's in that bracket of a match winner because the first 2 seasons, he held us on his back for a minute.
There was a game against Chelsea, I remember.
Yeah. Ooh. That was the infamous Wayne Bridge thing situation. Yeah, that was it, mate. Yeah, but he did that enough times. He did that a few times, and he deserves an honourable mention because he's a problem, a real problem. But they was probably the only 2 that you wouldn't recognise in training, and no one said anything to them about that because come game time, and that's what this made me laugh when growing up with other managers always say you can't turn it on and off like a light. You can. If you're that good, you can turn it on and off like a light. And them boys could do that. They could say, okay, I can be reserved this week, but then come game time, I can win you the game. Yeah.
Last one on Man City. I just want to hark back to your comments on Yaya Toure because for me, when I hear people mention, the best Premier League centre midfielders, I hear Steven Gerrard, I hear Roy Keane, I hear Paul Scholes, I hear Frank Lampard. Do you almost feel like Yaya Toure is underappreciated because 1, he's black, and 2, he's African?
I think the African thing is, because again, African players, obviously the African nations didn't help. The timing of that competition didn't help any African player, in my opinion. Obviously, being in January when it's serious times for clubs, and I don't know if I'm right in saying this. I think that may be the reason why Man United haven't signed that many African players because they know they're going to be in all the competitions that stage of the season, and then to lose arguably one of your best for 2 months is a problem. I'm not sure it's a black thing, and I'm not activist, but I'm definitely kind of like if it was, I'd be pulling people up on it. You know what I mean? But I just think the fact, like, this is the kind of scenario I have with the Van Dijk. I think them players did it for longer. They didn't do more, They just did it for longer. Like, if Van Dijk is still doing what he's doing in 7 years' time, this is why. And again, it's similar with De Bruyne. If Kevin De Bruyne is still doing what he's doing in 6 years' time, that means he would have done it for as long as David Silva. So now we can have the conversation of who's the best. And I just think, I'm not saying anyone's doing any more than anyone else, but if you do it for longer, surely should be granted the title of one of the best.
Yeah, so Joleon, you had a season at West Brom before you went to Aston Villa. Obviously, you played in a lot of games at West Brom, but I just wanted to ask one question about one particular player, and that's Saido Berahino. We've seen him in the press this week have, a candid interview with Daps from the Counter Attack podcast, saying that he wants to come back to the UK to ply his trade, hopefully in the Premier League. From working with him, obviously he's admitted his mistakes. He's gone to Belgium. He said he's matured now. How good can he be? And do you think he's a Premier League striker?
Definitely can play in the Premier League. He reminded me of the way he played, like Defoe. I know the stature and all that size of it, but his finishing technique was similar. But having known Jermaine when we were 16 and know how he works, I used to try and explain that to Saido and say, like, Jermaine's doing what you're doing, but he's working on top of that to be the best he can be every day. He's got natural ability, Saido has, and he had all that stuff. But he didn't want to kind of mature everything and make every decision to benefit his career. So like it's going back to the injury one. If he was, like when I said, if you're having a good day, don't think you don't need to do the extra work. Like, that's the kind of mindset you need to be the best. Like, Defoe didn't score a hat-trick and then think, you know what, I don't need to do a finishing now for 2 weeks. No, I need to do it tomorrow. I need to go and do it tomorrow to make sure I'm scoring 2 next week. And that's the mindset I think Saido needs. But he was young. And he was a player that he probably should have moved from West Brom earlier than he did. But again, I don't know the circumstances around that. I know there was issues at the club that kind of hindered that.
I think he was being used as a pawn in a potential takeover.
Yeah,
that's what he came out and said.
Yeah, again, and that was probably true, but that's still not a reason for you not to apply yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. There's no reason someone can tell me you shouldn't be trying your hardest at any circumstance. Because if that is the case, you then leave. Like, if you're still applying yourself and you're a pawn, granted he was, but you still get the move that you want. You know what I mean? And as I said, he was there going potentially to be, he was playing like in England squad at West Brom. And the one
Cold
thing,
player. Yeah, man.
yeah. He, as I said, footballing wise, he and again he's got a good footballing IQ, which is surprising, because you'll see people there'll be players that don't have it. They just have good attributes, but he had a good footballing IQ, was able to play multiple positions, and was unfortunate with the outcome of that transfer. But I still think he should have applied himself more so than he did. But now, hopefully, he's matured. As I said, I've got a lot of time for Saido. I did try and help him when I was there, and would still love to see him do well.
Moving on to Aston Villa, I remember a catastrophic season in 2015 to 2016, where you had, I think, 4 managers. You had Tim Sherwood as a permanent, and you also had Remy Gard later on in the season as a permanent
Kevin McDonald as well.
Eric Black.
Yep. I remember a massive outburst from, Aston Villa cult hero Stan Collymore, where he was very, very outspoken about, you in particular, Lee, and a lot of the other players. And he said, in the summer, you guys are going to be in Dubai, popping your ace of spades, with no care in the world.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying, man. Stan, and I won't expose him, but like, he forgets he was at Villa when my brother was at Villa. My brother was an apprentice, so I know ridiculous stories about him.
What, like what?
Nah, I won't. This I knew. It was funny because, like, Gareth Barry, the GOAT, you know what I mean? That's King GB. He reached out to me when it was going on. He reached out to me and said, "Do you want me to expose him?"
Wow.
For him to say that, I was like, "That's enough.
Strong.
That's enough. My reputation is enough with the people I've worked with and the people I've played with, like, to know." Even the Villa team at the time, yeah, it was, and I played my part in us getting relegated. But the people I've worked with in pretty much all the clubs, I'd like to say all of them, wouldn't have a negative thing to say about my professionalism. So him saying them things about me going to Dubai is strange. And what killed me was that when he was making it personal, I messaged him. I said, "We're both men. Come down the training ground. Let's sort this out."
What happened?
He posted the message. He posted it. I was like,
come on, man. So, Joleon, are you saying that Stan is irrelevant?
Stan, no, but what I'm saying is, like, because I've thought about this before. Like, I've scored as many goals for the national team as he has. I don't know. I might have got more. I've only got one. But I'm saying, like, he retired before the age I was at Aston Villa. So him to compare and say these things, I'm like, you wasn't even playing at this age, so you don't even know what it's like to be in this scenario kind of thing at 33, 34. So pay some respect. And what also frustrated me was that Stan had his issues with depression and mental health. How does he know I never, or players in the squad never? And the way he was going at us, I'm thinking, you could be affecting them. You could be affecting some players' mental health, but you have no consideration for that. So you're just willing to expose and just kind of say whatever you want for viewings or ratings and not care about an issue that made what played a part in you retiring. And that was kind of like, you're not serious enough about the issue if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, it was very vocal, and obviously there was the car incident where you mistakenly, tweeted a car that maybe a youth player sent you or something like that. And to be honest, throughout that season, there was a lot of criticism. I remember after the
that was a Liverpool game. You're going to say
the Valentine's Day massacre.
Yeah,
that people were calling.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm not hiding the fact that I played my part. But if you really analyse the whole scenario, Tim Sherwood was the manager, and that was his first pre-season because he joined the back end of the season before. We signed 8 players that never played in the Premier League before, and we'd signed. We had a sporting director and chief executive, maybe. They'd never done their jobs before, so we had potentially.
Was that Tom Fox, I believe?
Yeah, and I think he was Swedish. I can't remember, but. There was so many people in new roles. It couldn't be any one person's fault. It had to be all of our issue. And then the decision to get rid of Tim was funny because Tim understood the league. At least he understood what it was going to take if we were going to get out of it. And then to go and get someone that didn't understand, but just because basically he was a French-speaking manager, to kind of come in and try and turn it around, it was just too strange. It was just going to be too strange to happen. But yeah, we all played a part in that, and as I said, I hold my hands up to that.
Yeah. So how was the environment? 'Cause I know you had Micah, you had Brad, you had Leandro. People were saying, the players threw in the white towel that they gave up after an extent. You were inside that dressing room. To all Villa fans listening, what actually went on that season?
Obviously, not enough went on because we didn't survive. if you look at before that, Villa finished 17th the season before, and I think they were down there the season before that. So this wasn't just like, we finished 6th and now we got relegated. Like we're down there and then you go and get rid of Benteke, who's 50, but I think it was 48% of the goals, his contribution. Goals and assists.
18.
But he was goals and assists was 48%.
Yeah.
And then you're going and sign players that haven't scored in the Premier League. So it just doesn't add up. You've got players now like, how would Southampton look without Danny Ings, who scored 15 goals? You know what I mean? And he's a veteran in the Premier League. So for us to sign to get out of that, with not just the goals, because I said it's not just that, but there wasn't enough thought in the replacements for not the quality, because Idrissa Gueye had an amazing season, and Jordan Veretout now gone on to represent Roma. So the players wasn't the issue. It was just the timing of it all together was obviously wrong in terms of me being the age I was, players coming in and not being Premier League experience. Obviously, the club, the departments of the club not doing their jobs before. So as I said, there was loads of things. But in terms of what it looks like outside in, yeah, it was poor, man. It was horrible. And being a Villa fan, I grew up with Villa fan, so it hurt. And that's the thing still sits with me now, is that, yeah, I understand I was going to be made part of the scapegoat. It was easier to kind of get rid of me than it was other players because of my age and what I cost the club. But when family members who would come and supported me every team I'd represented couldn't come to the games because they were getting abused and stuff, that was when I was like, now it's getting serious. And I'm like, if Villa fans still want to... I had a debate with a few fans the other week on Instagram. They were saying certain things, and I was like, in every other team I played for, Villa never finished higher than that team I played for whilst I was playing in the Premier League. I'm saying, so it can't just be me. It's like, it's not just my fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other people, there was other people playing.
No, 100%. You know what, Joleon, you also touched on Christian Benteke there, who was obviously integral to the team. And I think since he's left, he's never really been replaced. And we've seen this season occasions where, you know, Jack Grealish has stepped up and really pulled the team and put them on his shoulders with some of the goals that he scored and performances he's put in. And, you know, his performances, of course, have meant that he started courting interest from, you know, different teams in the Premier League. And I suppose it might be a difficult one for you to answer, because you're obviously a Villa fan, as is he, you know, and currently the club captain. But if you were in his shoes and you were also and you were courting interest from other teams in the Premier League, would you you know, pay attention to those, and do you feel that now would be the right time for him to move?
You don't pay attention to them. You just deal with them when they arise. But yeah, for him to move now, it's not a bad decision. I don't think any Villa fan would discourage him leaving. They know he played a massive part in them getting promoted. If they stay up, he's played a massive part in that. I think to kind of ridicule him now for potentially leaving when he's on the cusp of becoming like a top player. Like he's shown that he can perform in a team that doesn't play to his strengths. So going to a team that potentially does, like, it can only enhance his reputation. In terms of what does it look like for him in the future, I think he has to leave. I think he has to leave. It's going to be difficult now with what's his current scenario, but I think if the season had finished normally, he would have left. He definitely would have left this season. I think there would have been too much interest for him not to leave. And in the best way possible, Aston Villa should make that process for him as easy. So it shouldn't be done last minute where he potentially has to written a transfer request. It should be, this is what we want. Give us this, you can have him, and let him lean clean and leave his reputation intact, so everybody knows, yeah, he did what he did for us. Now go and do it for someone else.
Joleon, final question from me. I think I posed this question to Rio Ferdinand as well, and his answer was very interesting. The GOAT. Bush tried to call him one of the best, but we'll leave that to another.
Wait, so Joleon, so would you say Rio is the best defender of your generation?
Yeah.
Big up.
Not even. Not even. As I said, he did it for how many years? Like, not that he wasn't doing any, not that other people weren't doing it. He did it for the longest time. And his kit never got dirty. I still don't even know.
Yeah, he had this hashtag, stay on your feet. So that shows what.
Yeah.
No, but Joleon, just going back to my question, I asked Rio, were there any incidents in your career where you feel you should have spoken out because, you know, Raheem Sterling in 2018, there was that watershed moment in football where he called out, you know, the media reporting of black players. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you were at Manchester City at the time working behind the scenes in 2018. This is almost like a two-part question. A, did Raheem Sterling consult you before he made that decision to go public? And B, do you feel that you should have said anything in your time?
In terms of the Raheem scenario, credit to him for doing that and making it more aware. And I'm not as close to the first team as you think enough for them to do that. If he did reach out, of course, I would have had a conversation with him, but I don't want to be that guy, that old pro that's around all the time. And he just comes like, why is he still around? Like, I'll go in when I'm needed to. I don't see the first team. I'm more uncomfortable seeing them because, as I said, I don't want them to feel I'm just being around, being busy. I don't want that to be my title. You know what I mean? So in terms of that, no, we didn't speak before. But what he did, it was like what everyone spoke about before. I don't feel I was ever at a level that Raheem has had to have the impact. Not that I'm saying I would have or wouldn't have. There was an incident I was involved in at Everton, and I chose to take it to the FA and kind of take it as far as it needed to be taken. And the way it was handled, I was just like, it's no good.
What incident was it, Joleon?
Exactly. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like it was me and Tim Howard. We were playing Newcastle and Emre. Do you remember Emre, the Turkish midfielder?
Yes.
That is Zakora for Spurs. I had incidents with before. This was before our incident. So a tackle had happened between him and Joseph Yobo. So me and Tim now on the footage are walking away back to our positions, and he says something to Joseph. And as a black man, the reaction we had, it's racist. You only react like that. Like I've seen things since that, and I know that's a racist comment because that's a different level of anger, emotion. So that was addressed, kind of made our statements, and this is how I knew it was something had happened, because the manager at the time, Glenn Roeder, I think he was the manager, he came in to our dressing room after the game to apologise for the incident. So I'm like, okay, if you're apologising, credit to you, fair play. Goes to wherever it goes to. At the time, it was just the FA meeting here. We're told me and Tim are told we can't have any representation there. We just need to go there, make our statements, and they'll decide on the outcome. And we get there. He's got 3 solicitors, a translator, and 2 character references. And I won't embarrass them of who they are. And I was like, there's no way this is gonna happen. So we made our statements. We were told, they're gonna have a long discussion about the event. Bearing in mind, I live in Manchester. We had to go to Leeds. Gonna have a long discussion about it, and then come up with the incident, or come up with the verdict. I hadn't even got home, and it was said he was innocent. It's an hour away. I was like, so it's kind of irrelevant. And then I received, and this was my kind of gripe with the Kick It Out campaign for my whole playing career, up until recently, until I've spoke to say Troy, who I've got a lot of respect for now. Like, I didn't receive a call from them till after the case hearing. Like, so I didn't know who to call. I didn't know there was a number. I'm thinking, I don't know the protocol of what should happen. And I didn't wear the T-shirts that everyone kind of been made to wear since or before that. I just refused to wear them then for the rest of my career, because I just thought it's not genuine. It's a kind of a gimmicky kind of thing. And as I said, it wasn't until Rio's incident, or Anton's incident, sorry, that people recognized that I wasn't wearing it, hadn't wore it for 9 years. I'm like, that's the thing. Like, unless it's a high profile player, there's not enough spotlight shone on it. And I was never in a position when that incident happened, I wasn't at a stature to kind of like, if that happens at Man City, when obviously my profile's higher, the outcome is hopefully similar to Raheem's, and it's addressed in the same way. But again, a lot of credit to Raheem for doing that, and what he addressed and how he did it was the best way, because we all know stories of that. Like, if you compare, and I had this discussion the other day with a friend, a footballer. Again, both good guys. I know these guys I'm going to mention now. I like top talents, but good people. Like Jack Wilshere has been so unlucky with injuries, it's ridiculous. But Daniel Sturridge has got a chip on his shoulder and will only play when he's 100% fit. But yet we've never seen him in the same imagery as we've seen Jack Wilshere. But they're just deemed totally different. Like Sturridge is deemed bad for wanting to pursue a career in music and doing fashion and doing like giving out awards at events. But yet they've had similar issues with their career in terms of injury. But one's ridiculed for it and the other one's kind of just unlucky. Like, if he had been fit, he would have had this career, this pathway. But we never say that about Sturridge. You know what I mean?
Big up Sturridge.
Big up Sturridge.
Big up
Sturridge.
Sturridge D. Sturridge D.
I used to play with his uncle.
Dean, obviously.
Yeah, Dean. So I played with Dean at Wolves. So I went to Dean's wedding and I met Daniel there. He was probably, I think he would have been 14. And he told me about him. He said, yeah, my nephew plays for Man City. He said he's got mad skills. Just madness. And then obviously he went on to do what he's done.
Yeah, so Joleon, I just wanted to, talk about your international career. Obviously made a few caps for England, playing in the Euros 2012, forging a partnership with John Terry. And obviously you got knocked out in the quarterfinals against Italy. How would you reflect on that tournament?
For me, obviously, a massive highlight, having scored and then going off. Obviously, getting out of the groups was an achievement, but disappointed that we didn't get through. We probably shouldn't have won that game anyway, if I'm honest about the Italy game. I think
Perla was really causing havoc, man.
He was doing the most, He was doing the most. Yeah, and I think Mario missed a couple of chances and Joe made some saves. So in terms of the way we lost, he was probably fortunate enough to get to penalties. But that, like, playing for England, like, I don't even know if I had that dream when I was young. That's not a dream. That wasn't a dream of mine. Like, kids nowadays probably have that, but I just wanted to be a footballer, say for Aston Villa. That was a team I supported, and then you get close to that, and then you get close to other things, and then your ambitions obviously change. But in terms of playing for England, again, this is like what I say about timing. For me, arguably in anyone's conversation, the 5 best centre-halves for England were Bobby Moore, Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, Rio, John Terry. When I first got into the England team, it was Sol Campbell, Rio Ferdinand and John Terry. So to be considered in that bracket at that time, just an achievement for me.
Fair play. Final question from me, Joleon. I've got to ask it, right? I'm gonna list a few names here, and maybe you figure out early doors what they all have in common. 50 Cent, Rex 32, Kano, Wayne Rooney, Yurioka Gamboa, and Mario Falcone. So the thing that these all have in common is that they've all with your items
brand.
from your brand. So I guess I wanted to ask, like, how did that come about, and how come you guys didn't continue to pursue it? I know it was something that you brother.
How it came about was love fashion, like most people now, but just enjoyed wearing more outrageous stuff than most. Wanted to create a line that was kind of affordable. Went into it with my brother, who retired I think it was that year or the year before, and then a good friend of mine, Jordan Stewart, who I knew him growing up with.
He's played as well, right?
Yeah, he played Leicester, Watford, and got promoted Watford. So kind of we created the line there, and then it kind of developed there, and then the Kano one. Kano's a good friend, so that was kind of an easier ask. The 50 Cent came through a friend of mine that works with 50, and kind of the other ones were just kind of obviously influenced at the time and stuff like that. So they were kind of passed through that way. But in terms of why I didn't continue, it was difficult because at the time I was doing it, I was asking people, because we only had a very, very limited knowledge and experience in the industry. So we had to employ people that we felt had our vision. But then when you're asking them to make decisions when it's not their money, it's easy for them to make that decision, and the amount of money they were making decisions on, like, wasn't going to change anything. You know what I mean? So if decision was to do something for the sake of, and again, no disrespect to the amounts, like £1,000 profit, but the longer term look of it wasn't going to be sustainable, they would make that decision. I was like, well, that's not going to help us, kind of thing. But it helped me realize that if you're going into business, learn as much as you can before you do it. So I do other things now, and I tend to learn the role of the employee I need to employ next. So if he's doing his job, or she's doing her job right, at least I know. I can say I've done that, so this is how it should be done. Because when I was doing that, it was like, letting them tell me how they should do their job, which I couldn't argue because I hadn't done it before, and it was a massive learning curve in terms of that. And it just wasn't sustainable. Like business, the fashion game is hard, and there's way bigger people than me. Like I think Kanye's only just started making money, a lot of it, but like the first few years for Kanye, and he went to design school. Like people know Kanye for music, but obviously he went to college to study art and design. You know what I mean? So
there's a former City player, Reece Wabara, with Mana Devore. He's doing very, very well. I'm actually wearing one of his tops now.
Yeah, he's from the same area I grew up in, went to the same school and that. But yeah, he's one of the ones that kind of got to understand the business of it as well. Didn't just have a good eye for fashion, because that's not enough. Like you need to understand business, and he obviously does, and took that to kind of to a new height, because I think his decision to stop playing was based on that. The success of his line was, well, I kind of don't need to play as much as I'd like to play. You know what I mean? So
no, Joleon,
big up, man. We could do this
up
for another hour and a half, man. We're very pressed for time. I know you got the kids as well. So
it's been quality, man. Honestly, Joleon, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've literally covered everything. We've spoken about.
Did you enjoy it, Joleon?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I prefer these, to be fair. Because it's just more relaxed, isn't it? Like when you're on air and that, it's good, but you probably got 40 seconds. Like, and someone's in your ear saying,
we didn't cover your Sky Sports career, though. We see you in the studio.
Bars,
man.
Keep it coming, man. Keep it coming.
I try. Appreciate it, man. Keep doing what you're doing as well, man. I see you getting a lot of press there, man. So keep that, man.
Love.
100%, man. When we do it again, Joleon, we can do a bit more of a deep dive into the work that you're doing with Sky and whatnot as well, man.
Yeah, cool, man. No
100% do that. We know that the listeners would absolutely enjoy this one. So thank you very much for all of you that have listened in up until this point, or watched up until this point. Just a reminder before we sign out that you can view our episodes on our YouTube channel, The Beautiful Game Podcast. All of our episodes are on Spotify, on SoundCloud, and on Apple Podcasts as well. And if you are listening in on Apple Podcasts, please make sure you leave a 5-star review. If you're not yet following us on Twitter, it's at podcast_TBG, and on Instagram at pod_TBG. We've got more things coming for you guys, so continue to stay tuned. And until the next episode, over and out.
Peace.